Alright, so obviously the writers and actors strike is continuing on to this day. It started, I think the actors joined the strike like a few weeks ago, maybe 3 up to this point. And writers have been going on for months now. And it looks like it's not going to stop anytime soon. Executives are very hard on the fact that they are not returning to negotiations, and they are looking for any single way to advertise for the movies without negotiating with the writers and actors. So as we saw before, that whole statement of them being like, oh, we're gonna make them go homeless is very true. Like, they want them to go homeless instead of actually just giving them a livable wage. But the writers and actors aren't alone. They are getting some major support. Dwayne Johnson, I believed, how much money was it again? Let's look it up. Dwayne Johnson contributes historic donation to SAG Anthro Foundation Relief Fund. Says President Courtney B. Vance, it's a call to arms for all of us, exclusive. On July 13, as SAG Anthro leadership declared the union was going on strike, the foundation president Courtney B. Vance and executive director Sid Wilson drafted a letter to 2,700 of the union's highest-earning actors outlining the financial need that many would face in the work stoppage. Having been through this during COVID and having such a great response from our own membership is to take care of their own. When the strike was decided, Courtney and I sat down with our team and said, here we go again. Shortly after sending the letter, Dwayne Johnson's team reached out to say he wanted to help, so he and Vance hopped on a phone call. It was a love fest. It's like, man, you're stepping up in a way that is allowing others to know the dire necessity of it, Vance told Johnson about his contribution to the fund, noting that the exact sum is being kept confidential, but he was heartened by the A-lister's generosity. This is him saying, in such of a time as this, I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. Whatever you need me to do, that sends a huge message to other folks to do the same thing. It's a call to arms for all of us to know that we just have to step up however you can. Vance adds, if you step up to $10, step up, because that $10 is going to help someone. If it's 100,000, if it's 100 million, step up, because we have to. Everyone knows what happens when you go on strike, when you stand for something. As the saying goes, if you don't stand for something, you fall for everything. You can't stand unless you have support underneath you, on the side, up top, and up front. So Dwayne is letting everyone know, I'm here, what are you going to do? You know what? This is a big deal. This is something that I feel like a lot of people wouldn't see coming, and he's giving back to the community. I remember seeing something that was I wanted to give back to the community that helped me out when I was starting out things, because when he was joining movies, I'm pretty sure he would obviously join the union as well. So he wanted to give back to the community that allowed him to be in the position he is. And that's the best you can do. And it's just a lovely thing to do. We also got Bryan Cranston. Let's see. Here he is. Bryan Cranston of Malcolm in the Middle fame, obviously Breaking Bad as well. Here he is talking about the strike itself.
I know, sir, that you look through things through a different lens. We don't expect you to understand who we are, but we ask you to hear us, and beyond that, to listen to us. When we tell you we will not be having our jobs taken away and giving to robots. We will not have you take away our right to work and earn a decent living. And lastly, and most importantly, we will not allow you to take away our dignity. We are union through and through, all the way to the end. Thank you. God bless you. Stay together. We will win this fight. God bless you.
Just lovely. He just hit on all the great points. AI taking over. They don't want that. They want to be treated with dignity. Want the fair compensation for the work they do. And the thing is the problem with this is Bob Iger is never going to see these people as people. He has been very open about how against the strike he is. Obviously he's an executive, but as we have learned later on. Oh, no, not this one. I mean, this one, we might as well bring this up. Whilst writers and actors are fighting for fair pay and working condition, Disney has stated hiring for a half a dozen AI job opportunities with salaries starting at $180K a year. Just completely fucking disgusting. But like, yeah, this is obviously why they are fighting for their fair pay and working conditions. Because like, this is what they're doing. They rather screw them out of a job. They rather save, cost cutting. They rather do cost cutting. They rather do cost saving measures. They rather do cost saving measures than actually just give them fair pay. That's it. And this is also some big news that broke out. Studios are currently refusing to return to negotiations with SAG and WGA, and instead plan on waiting until members start losing their apartments and houses. Which, again, like I brought up beforehand, this is again going for the whole fact that one executive even said they want them to go homeless. And when they go homeless, they'll come crawling back under any conditions like we set for them. It didn't exactly say that, but you could tell that's what he meant. And it's just disgusting. It just proves how much of a monster you are. Like, I cannot fucking tell how they can, like, look at themselves in the mirror and be like, oh yeah, we're the good guys. We're the good guys with this. Just fucking terrible. Universal is under investigation after it trimmed trees that shaded SAG Anthem protesters. The Los Angeles City Controller's Office is investigating NBC Universal severely trimming a row of trees outside its studios, while members of SAG were picketing company executives, eliminating shade during a searing heat wave. Which is also a big thing going on right now. Like, there is a huge heat wave just coming across America right now, and it is getting bad. Trees are essential to providing Angelos. Oh, Los Angeles. Is that what they call Los Angeles native? What the fuck? Trees are essential to providing, environmental and public health benefits, especially during a heat wave. Last week, SAG's 1,600,000 actors and other social media personalities joined the 11,000 Writers Guilds of America members who have been on the picket line since May as negotiations between the union and the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, which produces the studios, broke down. But excessive heat in parts of the country has led to strike organizers to caution participants to stay hydrated and use sunscreen. Earlier this week, SAG cut short their Disney and Warner Bros. Pickets, citing extreme heat in LA. On Monday, comedian Chris Steffens tweeted a picture of a row of trees, all with their limbs severely trimmed. Quick shout out to the good people at Universal Place for trimming the trees that gave our picket line shade right before a 90+ degree week. But NBC Universal denied that this was malicious. We understand that the safety tree trimming of the ficus trees. Alright. We understand that the safety tree trimming of the ficus trees we did on Barham Boulevard has created unintended challenges for demonstrators. Sure. That was our intention. Double sure. An NBC spokesperson said in a statement to CNN, NBC Universal owns Universal Pictures in partnership with licensed arborists. We have pruned those trees annually this time of year to ensure that the canopies are light ahead of the high wind season. Except that's not true, because didn't it get revealed that, here we are. The Los Angeles Public Works Department also told CNN in a statement that the city did not issue any tree trimming permits for the area outside of Universal's office. Also, someone said the trees in question are managed by the city, not NBC Universal, and added the trees should be trimmed every 5 years, not annually. The NBC spokesperson added that the company is working to offer additional combination, such as pop-up tents and water. We continue to openly contribute with our labor leaders on site to work together during this time. Sure. I bet it's like those little tiny bottles too. Like those little ones that they hand out I like random ass part. I don't know. A SAG spokesperson told CNN on Wednesday that the union and the WGA each filed unfair labor practices charges against NBC Universal with National Labor Relations Board. The two unions are working to remedy this egregious violation of our members' rights, according to the spokesperson. SAG appreciates these efforts to ensure our members have a safe place to exercise their federal rights to join picket lines to demand a free contract. Yeah, and I believe they got, what was it? They didn't get sued. They had to pay a fine or something like that. Their revenue this last year was $39.2 billion, and they had to pay a fine of $250. One of their executives could have paid that, just like a random one. It would have mean nothing. This is just completely egregious. Like, they are trying to basically burn out people who are trying to fight for their rights as workers, and this is how they're treated. Now right here we have UPS also won their strike, but we're going to get back to that. That's going to be kind of what we put with the Fantano whole thing with Activision. Just more stuff that's similar to it that we'll get to. But right now, we're going to kind of get into what scabbing is. Now, I already did a full video of what scabbing is, and it's not going away anytime soon. You know, I was hoping for Straw Hat Goofy, who is a very famous content creator on TikTok, would be able to, you know, continue the trend of would be able to learn from his mistake the first time, but apparently he's been kind of complaining about it. Now, I showed you all this profile page called Scabs of TikTok. In terms of like TikToks to like more TikToks to show people scabbing, I mean, we see it right here, but I don't really think these are many big names. I mean, I'm not really gonna talk about this one because this one's a little outdated. Let's see. So, like, this video is a little outdated. Basically, she talks about the whole message of this video is like, you need to stop coming after like content creators and stop, you know, like, it shouldn't be an us versus us. It should be us against them. And my response to this is, you can do both. And she's basically, now these are kind of outdated, and also she doesn't get them from like SAG itself. She gets from Variety, which is still fair. Like the Variety article that talked about this added a lot more like context for like film critics and journalists. But in terms of influencers, the rules have kind of changed over time. Originally, it was that you could only do work for companies if it was already contractually obligated to do so, but you weren't allowed to take new stuff. Also, you were allowed to organically talk about products to begin with because you weren't being paid for it. However, it was still very much like a thing where, like, I think it was something that they were like, we wish you wouldn't do this, but like, obviously we can't stop people from organically talking about this. However, they have updated it. Let me actually bring it up. Am I allowed to promote struck work on social media as a fan and not in a paid capacity? Now this one has kind of changed. Influencers should refrain from posting on social media about any struck work regardless of whether or not they are posting organically or in a paid capacity. Now, I believe this used to be like, you can post it organically but just don't accept work. So, you know, things have kind of changed. And look, it's not easy for influencers. This is like the first time this has happened in our era. And that is something that we had to consider when we talk about, like, you know, kind of being combative towards these people. But at the same time, I don't feel like it should be hard to be a good person and just show support when you can. And with this video, again, it's outdated. I don't know what her opinion's on it now. But basically, I feel like it should be important to watch influencers because they are helping undermine the strike. Like, we already know how against this whole thing that the you know executives are. They're not even returning to negotiations, so they are going to look for these people to do work for them. But then we have Straw Hat Goofy. Now, I talked about Straw Hat Goofy last time, and he did come out and apologize, but I'm pretty sure, as I mentioned in that video, my guess is that it wasn't a very sincere apology. It was more like my manager called me up and said that I need to apologize because I was making myself look fucking horrendous. And, he was doing pretty well. Like, he was, talking about, like, he wasn't covering strike work. I think he only made, like, one video about Oppenheimer, but, like, is that stuff he was still doing? It's not really sure. Doesn't seem like he had a lot of contractual work to do anyways, because he's not really talking about it.
This comment is...
But, one person left this comment about how, basically, they wanted to learn about stuff that's going on with Secret Invasion, because, it's the hot new Marvel project. I didn't even fucking watch it. It looked like shit. But one person left this comment, and now he goes on this whole kind of tirade. Which, by the way, before I go into, he has a fair point, but we'll get into that.
Very confusing for me, and I think it's indicative of what's been happening over the course of the last week when it came to the strike, content creators, and how it's always changing and we don't know exactly what's going on. Despite the strike going on and SAG clearly saying that we can't talk about any of the content from those struck companies, this person is still asking me why I'm not talking about this when last week everybody jumped down the throat at the thought of me talking about it.
By the way, it's one person.
Yeah, no, you're not going to be seeing any new Secret Invasion content from me for the foreseeable future. I'm watching the show. I'm loving the show. I have a whole bunch of things to break down. Got a lot of thoughts. Been writing it down. I've actually made the videos. I'm just not going to be posting them until after the strike is all said and done.
Okay, so I was going to get him. I was going to let him get more into it, and I will. We will watch this whole thing. But something I just want to point out right here. Here's the thing, like, what he does in this, and he did it in past videos too, it's like he's very mad at his audience, and he kind of, like, I don't know if gaslighting is the right word, but he kind of manipulates it, being like, oh, these people are all mean and they're all bad and they're all coming after me. But, like, we as an audience, like, his audience shouldn't be responsible for knowing exactly how SAG wants influencers to act on this time. Like, I'm not even sure if it's in this video or if it's in the next videos we're going to watch, but he even says, I got emailed from SAG what I should do as an influencer. It's like, okay, then that's on you, because they're directly coming to you, being like, hey, this is how you are supposed to act as an influencer. But to take, like, this one comment and using it as oh, people are wondering about this now, but you are all jumping on me, it doesn't help your point, man. It just makes you feel bitter. It makes you feel like your whole apology means nothing and feels more of a, like, advertising way. Like, it feels that more as a, like, keeping your public image alive sort of way, because a lot of people were coming against him.
This is a confusing time for movie and TV content creators. Like, the strike is going on. We don't know what to post. SAG-AFTRA came out with their guidelines, and it's changing.
Here's something that, like, okay, I'm not a film influencer, I'm not a movie influencer at all. But at the same time, someone that I will give full credit, full support to is Jay Stoops. Jay Stoops is a TikToker. I believe she is a mutual of Straw Hat Goofy. I think they collabed a few times. But, like, she has been, like, ever since the strike, she has solely been dedicated to making content about the strike and all, like, the stuff going on about it. And there's been this woman that I follow on TikTok too. Her name is Stephanie. I forget what her exact username is, but, like, I follow her on Twitter as well, and she's been talking about the strike a lot and covering, like, the stuff that's going on, putting in her input, putting in a lot of support. To me, if you feel like there's so much different aspects to film, there's so much aspects to the entertainment industry in general. If you are finding yourself a hard time of branching out and talking about new things in order for, just writers and actors to be able to perform their strike without it being hindrance by people like him, that's on you. You need to be able to change your content up. You're not going to live in content creation for long if you don't know how to adapt over time, even when it is sudden changes. You can't get stale, is what I'm trying to say. And you see that with a lot of content creators. At some point, people are going to get bored of them. I mean, wasn't that how like prank content creators died? It's because people were getting bored of their shit.
Every single day. At first it was paid promotion was the main thing that we couldn't do, and we could finish out our old contracts, which is still part of the guidelines. They're still there. But now I saw a new email that said that we can't post anything about movies from truck companies. That means old movies, new reviews for movies, streaming show reactions, things like that. I am literally leaving Comic-Con right now, and I didn't wear any merch that supported the truck companies. I didn't post anything that had something from the truck companies in the background. New trailers, big movie news, and I haven't talked about any of it. And I'm not going to get into what happened to me a week ago. We know what happened. But I'm still seeing content creators, mostly my mutuals, still posting content about the struck companies. And I'm not seeing...
That says a lot about your mutuals, though. And, by the way, I'm not exactly sure who his mutuals is. I did try to do some background information on it. I, looked up, tried to look up who he's following. But he has it set to private, so I don't know. But, two people that I know that he has some kind of relation with, in one way or another, is Soups and the Escape podcast. And if you don't know those two, good. Because I don't think you should. They are, for both good and bad reasons. Well, the Escape pod is just kind of cringe. And that's just my problem with it. But those two, I am aware that he has had collaborations with, or has had some sort of business relationship with, and maybe even a personal relationship. But Soups, if you don't know who Soups is, he is mostly, I would say, what do I call him? I would call him a film influencer as well. He made a lot of his following talking about superheroes and comic books, and he's kind of gone away from that entirely. And he has basically ostracized himself very much from the fact that he is from a large base of the comic book loving community, fan community. Let me see if I can pull him up. Okay, here's Soups, and he is very much, as you can see here, these are recent videos. So he's talking about, Superman and Lois, the new My Adventures with Superman. He's talking about, Sony, which I'm pretty sure this was just a Rickroll video. Doesn't really matter. He's talking about, The Boys. He's talking about the new TMT, Invincible, which is all struck work. It doesn't matter if it is traditional Universal, Disney. If it is a streaming service, it's just as bad. You shouldn't be talking about it. I guess he doesn't know that. Well, I guess he does know that because this is a movie. This TMNT trailer is a movie that is coming out in theaters, which is struck work still. But he doesn't really care. And for someone who made such a fan base about talking about superheroes and comic books, which is how I kind of got introduced to him for the first time, when this whole strike thing happened, he took a few days where he just, instead of I'll get into it, but he made a whole tier list. He made a top 10 of instead of talking about the source material in which all this stuff he apparently loves comes from, comic books and shit like that, he instead decided to make a bunch of videos about him ranking shit like chairs and straws. Which, whatever. At least it's some way of making other content that's not just, content about struck work. But at the same time, it's just what the fuck is this? He made 2 videos of obscure DC characters you don't know about, but went right into, let's talk about Oppenheimer, Barbie, struck work. Let's talk about Marvels. And if you don't think it can get worse, it gets worse. Because let me see if I can find it. I don't know if, here it is. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of this movie called The Sound of Freedom. But it is a movie about human trafficking. And it is basically what a lot of people would describe it as a QAnon conspiracy supporting movie. Very much has a lot of QAnon conspiracy in it. Like I believe the guy who like made this movie and like made the story does believe in QAnon conspiracies. And
there's a film in theaters right now that you guys absolutely
this.
have to go support, and it's called The Sound of Freedom. I want to preface this by saying this video is not paid for. As a matter of fact, I found out that this movie existed 2 days ago. Variety has deemed this film the summer's unlikely box office hit because people are rallying behind this movie, and here's why. This film tells the true story of Tim Ballard, who worked for the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and then quit his job to start his own organization that conducts rescue missions to stop child traffickers and save kids from around the world. It does not hold back in exposing the horrors behind child trafficking, but it's child traffickers.
Yeah. It sounds good. Like, oh, we're exposing child trafficking, shit like that. But like, it's blown very much out of proportion. A lot of people have like, critiqued it for supporting a lot of QAnon conspiracies, which it very much does. A lot of people have blown it out of proportion too. They're like, oh, it's dominating the box office. It's because there is a scheme placed in it where they will do like a pass it forward, I believe that's what it's called, where they'll ask like the people who went to the movie to buy an extra ticket on their way out, and it will lead them to a website and shit like that. It's very like, it's very schemy. Let me get into it. Oh yeah, here we go. It was called a pay it forward scheme. Multiple theater outlets and moviegoers have reported that the film's overinflation of tickets are being used as a promotional marketing scheme by Angel Studios. A message at the end of the film and a prominent link to the studio's website urged viewers to buy an extra ticket for someone who would not otherwise be able to see the movie. However, this resulted in a lot of sold-out shows with no seats. Like, this is something that was talked about a lot. Like, there would be tickets to buy the show. There would be people who would buy tickets to the show, but no one would go see it. So, it made a lot more money than it actually would have if it wasn't for the fact that they kind of manipulated their audience to buy extra tickets. And, I mean, I don't really think I need to explain more. Just look at the people who supported this movie and endorsed it. Mel Gibson, Dana White, Elon Musk, Ben Shapiro, and Donald Trump. The man who the whole QAnon thing is based around. Like, QAnon supporters are the same thing as fucking Trump supporters. And then we have the alleged ties to QAnon conspiracy theory. Although the film does not mention any QAnon conspiracy theories, some critics have accused filmmakers of embellishing the reality of child exploitation and stoking QAnon conspiracy theories, referring to a belief that a core group of devil-worshipping elite run the world. And, yeah, it's just sick. It's being marketed to QAnon believers, it's being embraced by its community, its leading actor is a huge part of the QAnon community. Like, they know what they're trying to do. And he knows, and he should know exactly what he's trying to do. And it's not like he's playing dumb either. He literally says, looks like they shadow banned this one. They can't if we make the noise ourselves. Like, what a fucking ghoul. And by the way, this is someone who more than likely Straw Hat Goofy considers a, mutual of his. It's like, okay, like, if you have a problem with him doing this, by the way, he is a fucking ghoul for doing all this shit. But if that's your problem with it, like, bring it up to him. He has also, like, this isn't even the worst shit he's done. In all honesty, like, there was a whole deal with Soups, basically blacklisting his former manager from the entertainment industry because his manager called him out on his very toxic behavior in the community. So Soups fired him, made up all these lies about him, even brought Straw Hat Goofy into it by having him not make up a quote, but like give a quote of being like, look how creepy and weird this guy is, when all the guy was doing his job. Like, the whole quote was like, oh, this guy came up to me, he told me that he wanted me to sign with him, he said he knew all these big names and could get me in contact with them, and I was like, no thank you, dog. And he was just like, I think he did say somewhere where he felt like a little uneasy about this, but it was like, I'm pretty sure he even mentioned this was at a like a red carpet event, like where stuff like this would take place. Like, this isn't uncommon for influencers. But like, just kind of weird. Also, Straw Hat Goofy remained silent throughout all of that, which seems very weird too. When his statement was a big contributor to it. Like, the only person who actually came out and apologized during that whole statement was Boss Logic. But yeah, this guy's a fucking goal too. And then we have these guys. And yeah, he kind of like ostracized himself from the whole comic book community because of that. And then you also have these guys who have also kind of ostracized themselves from the community because, like, from what a lot of people like crack jokes, like, these guys are the worst type of nerds, where, like, they're the guys who would, like, look at something like I think literally a take that they had. Like, here we have.
Came out and said that this was the best film he's ever been a part of. Nope, Captain America: Civil War and Avengers: Infinity War are.
Where they'll look at, like, really good movies. They'll look at, like, these very artsy movies that, you know, people put a lot of, like, time and effort into to make it a piece of art, and they'll be like, no, but it's not better than a comic book movie. Like, I love comic book movies. I'm a big superhero fan, but, like, that's just the worst type of nerd, where they're just like, they look at something that, like, is actually artful and masterful, and then they look at this, like, corporate constructed thing. And by the way, like, there's some good that comes out of that. Like, again, I still like a lot of them, but, like, just, it's weird. They're just weird kind of nerds. But, like, those three have ostracized themselves from the community so much. Like, the only people that follow them are the ones who don't give a shit, are the ones who are against the strike to begin with anyways. So it doesn't matter to them. But, and obviously, you know, they have to be scabs, because what else would they do? I don't know, support the actual, like, comic books and source material that it actually comes from for once in their goddamn lives? No, they just gotta, I think, oh god, I don't know how many people are gonna get this, but, like, Soups literally even put out a tweet where he was, like, talking about, like, what was gonna come with Invincible Season 2, and he said that he learned everything he learned about it from a YouTube video. He couldn't even go out and, like, buy the books himself. He has to learn it from a YouTube video. Like, that just shows how much he doesn't give a crap about the actual source material. He only gives a crap about advertising these big movies that people are going crazy for. Like, he has no genuine love for this. Pisses me off. Pisses me off more than the Straw Hat Goofy thing. And this still pisses me off.
Any hate about it, and it's kind of confusing because I'm trying to wonder where the goalpost is. How do we mine the goal?
Again, well, this just kind of shows how blind you are to the people that you consider neutrals. Like, if you can't understand why they have ostracized themselves from this whole community, to the fact that they are filling themselves up with a community that is very anti-this anyways, would rather be anti-this anyways, then you don't understand the people that you hang around with.
Goalpost. How do we not cross the goalpost or pick a line in this sense? Seeing people talk about seeking it.
And also, this just goes with a huge thing that I'm pretty sure I mentioned the last time I talked about Straw Hat Goofy. It's very much like me, and not, like, actually talking about the stuff that's going on. Like, I think even after he did his whole apology video, he didn't mention a lot of stuff about the strike. Like, alright, if you seem to be so supportive of the strike and you're sorry for the things you have said, why don't you actually talk about, like, the developments of the strike to begin with? Just so weird to me. It just feels like he's complaining that he's not allowed to scab. Like, he's upset that his own community refuses to allow him to scab. Just so weird and gross.
Invasion. I saw reviews for Oppenheimer. I saw reviews for Barbie. One of my mutuals said that they know that the strike is going on, but they have to do it. And it was met with nothing but praise. And I just...
Again, because their community probably is against the strike anyways, and they just want to see the stuff. They don't care about the writers and actors. But, like, God forbid your community actually wants you to show love to these writers and actors.
don't get what we're doing anymore. But until then, I'm going to just be extra cautious. Extra cautious.
Good.
No new content from any other struck.
I mean, you're already kind of ruining it for yourself with this video, because it already shows that you don't care. It already shows that you don't really care that much. You just care about, like, how it affects you. And you just want to play it safe for, like, public reception reasons.
The switch up is crazy. I never switched up. You just wanted to believe that I was scabbing, so
You were.
it's all good. It's all good. Bro was going through it. I'm good. Nah, I'm good. What's your content about? My content now is like focusing.
And here's the thing. Like, the best way I could explain this is kind of like the John Mulaney whole situation where, like, through his comedy, he was kind of able to build himself up as, like, this very, like, nice, soft guy that a lot of people could, like, relate to. And then, like, the whole divorce with his wife that kind of uncrumbled that. This is how I kind of feel about Straw Hat Goofy. And don't get me wrong, a lot of the criticism that Straw Hat Goofy has gotten is very warranted. Well, no, not the criticism. They're not warranted. That's not what I was trying to say. They're very, like, unwarranted is what I meant to say. I was trying to find a better word. A lot of the criticisms that Straw Hat Goofy has gotten in the past are very unwarranted, especially when it came to, like, racism with, like, the whole Falcon and Winter Soldier thing. But, like, he very much has kind of built himself off as kind of like this. He's very, like, the friendly guy who really, like, cares about this business and really cares about, like, the actors and writers in general. But, like, with this, it's really just showing his real colors, where it's like he only really cares how it affects him. And obviously, this is his living. Obviously, he should be worried about how this affects him. But, like, it shouldn't be that hard to just be like, okay, I gotta find new ways to, like, change up my content. Maybe if I really want to show my support, I would, like, cover the strike. Like, I don't know where he lives, but he was recently in San Diego for Comic-Con. I don't feel like it should have been that much of a problem just to, like, make a little detour to Los Angeles to, like, do some strike work and actually show your support. And the same thing goes with any influencer, too. But, like, I'm not gonna, like, Soups should at least try to show more support than he is showing right now, where he is just promoting struck work. Same with the Escape Pod. Same with all these scab influencers. It's not just Straw Hat Goofy, but you have made yourself the face of this whole scab movement because you're trying to show your support, but you're obviously still trying to be like me.
On Brooke.
Also, I got this video from a whole TikTok page called Scabs of TikTok. It's not just you, bro. It's not just you. You're just the only one who's, like, allowing it to get to you because you want to scab so bad, but you have made this whole community of people who look to you like you're this perfect guy because you have betrayed yourself very much in this sort of like I'm just someone who cares so much about this industry, but when something really big happens to this industry in which the people behind it are fighting for their livelihood, you're just kind of like, oh, but I still want to get money. I still want to get money even though I am taking their job and scabbing. Just gross.
Over Frankie. Like, that's just my personal opinion. I love Brooke. My content is mostly going to be focusing on actors, writers, movies that are not part of the truck companies, as well as just, like, fun little stuff.
Well, that's still good. Don't get me wrong. Like, the content that he has been making ever since then is still good. And, like, alright, if he doesn't want to cover the strike, fine. At least he's not promoting struck work. And I remember I was thinking about this literally the other day. He was promoting One Piece, and I was like, that's great. That's great. Move your content a little bit until the strike is over and start incorporating new things. Why hold yourself to this whole standard of just being a movie guy? Like, be willing to branch yourself out sometimes. Because now you have, like, put yourself in the stranglehold where you're like, well, I can't do anything else. I'm the movie guy. It's like, you can do so much more if you were just, like, able to break yourself free, and you probably wouldn't be doing this whole, like, thing that's, like, it's not ruining his career, but it's very ostracizing him from the community as well.
Stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like Doctor Who, One Piece, you know what I'm saying? Like, I like those type of things. New rock stars are making content on movies, TV shows, and others. Why won't you? Just wondering.
Yeah, fuck New Rockstar.
Because if I do it, then, like, people for some reason will come at me for some reason.
Again, he's seeing this with, like, he's not like he's not checking his blind spots, where, like, he's not seeing the other stuff that's going on and other people being affected by this thing being called scabs. Like, he's just focusing on himself, and it really shows with this. Hey, like, this comment right here, did he really only meme this? Like, only me this? Like, he is. He's making it all about himself.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I know I said that I was going to continue doing what I do, and all these other people are continuing to do what they do. They're not getting backlash for it, but it's very interesting that I'm getting backlash for it as well. I still haven't taken any new deals from any new studios. I still
Which is
haven't
good.
done. I wouldn't be able to take the work from actors and writers in the first place because I, in fact, am not an actor
Yes, you
or
would.
writer.
Again, this is him. The whole thing of him thinking like his audience is fucking stupid. Because anyone with a goddamn brain cell would be able to tell, well, that's not only what actors do. They also are there to market the movies. That's why when WGA was on strike, you could still make content. Because writers' jobs aren't to promote these movies. But it is the actors' jobs too. If the actors weren't promoting these movies, no one would.
What they do is
Like, what do you think red carpets are for? Who do you think the people you are interviewing, what do you think their job in that scenario is? To act? No, they're promoting the movie. Fucking idiot.
what they do is they see me, they say you have a platform, and they say that you can't do this, and they won't let me do it. So, and it's not like I'm bowing down to them. Personally, I think it's right to kind of like support the writers and actors. I just thought that I was on the level of a New Rock Stars or a Variety or a Hollywood Reporter, and that was what my job was. I mean,
But you do more than that. Like, you came up as an influencer. That's very much what you are. The only reason why you get to do these interviews and these, red carpet mirrors is because, and he even said this in a live that happened today, in which he complained about being shadow banned apparently, even though he gets the same amount of views, like, pretty regularly. But, like, he was talking about this on the stream where he was like, oh, I get invited. It's like, they invite you because they know that you have a large subscriber amount. They know there's a lot of people who watch you. So that's why you get invited. It's not because you're a journalist. It's not because you work for Variety or New Rockstars. It's because they see that number and they give it to you. I mean, there was a whole thing with Addison Rae where she got invited to do a like UFC fight to like interview the fighters, even though she knew like nothing about it. And people were like, why did she get invited over another journalist? It was like, because they want to have this big name on their show to like get their fans over to it. They don't care if she has any journalist like experience. They just only care if she's a big name with big numbers. Like, that's why they invite you. They don't invite you because you're a journalist. They invite you because you're an influencer with a big amount of subscribers. Jesus.
you know, I interview people on red carpets. I interview people for press junkets. I do the same jobs that these people do, but for some reason, people tend to think that I'm just an influencer.
Well, I already said, like, the reason why he doesn't get that is because, so the reason why he's not Variety and TH is because he's getting paid by in studios and he's not a critic. He's simply an influencer who should be in SAG. Like, oh yeah, SAG has an influencer agreement, don't they? Like, yeah, you can be a part of SAG, man. And that was his whole excuse the last time, oh, I'm not a part of SAG. Well, you could be. There's an influencer program. You've done voice acting before. Like, I don't know. It shouldn't be that hard for you.
And so when I say that I'm going to be doing what I usually do, like everyone else is still doing what they are usually doing, people looked at me and said, "Oh no, you're a scab," and I'm just kind of like, and it's literally like,
obviously you're
me.
not
I'm
struggling
like a
about it. You
Colin
make it a
who
very big
came
deal.
out and said like, I'll gladly be a scab. I'll gladly take the work of actors and writers and do a show and da 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 da. Now that's scab behavior. Whereas like I just said, I'm just going to continue doing the content that I've always done. But you know, it's where it rolls. It's where the dice rolls, to be honest. See, that's what I was saying. Like, to people like Anthony, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I followed all the rules of SAG. I followed everything, and then it just takes like one thing for people to be like, "Oh,
You followed all the rules, but you are also very much doing this whole thing where you're like, but actually no, you weren't going to follow. You literally said yourself, there was an entire skit you did where you said you weren't going to follow the rules because it didn't apply to you, in your opinion.
ooh."
The entire skit was
yeah.
you literally going, I don't have to apply to those rules because I'm not in SAG.
So anyway, we're moving forward. Like, I know who I am, and the internet can't tell me who I am, what I do.
Also, by the way, that live that I mentioned earlier, he literally said that, so this is his main source of income, basically. He has said that he is doing this full time. And he has said in that new live of his, the internet is fake. Now, I don't have footage of the new live, unfortunately. It doesn't seem like anyone was able to, like, record it, and I didn't have enough time to. I was busy doing other shit. I was listening to it while I was doing groceries. And it was basically talking about, like, oh, the internet's fake and I can just turn that off and I have more important things to do. Do you? It seems like it, because you make it seem like it's your entire job. Like your job is this. So it just seems like he's trying to downplay it. Being like, oh, it doesn't affect me that much. Or like, oh, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Like, this is just insane. Okay, so moving past that, we're going to go on to this whole Teamsters situation with the UPS winning their strike. Here we go. We changed the game. Teamsters win historic UPS contract. Big win. We want to. This is a big win for UPS drivers. They've been fighting. I think it was like a few weeks, wasn't it? But it allows them to get a lot more benefits. Something like getting AC inside the trucks, which is very important, especially due to this big heat wave we're all facing. But let's just look at this thread we got here. We changed the game. Teamsters win historic UPS contract. Today, the Teamsters reached the most historic tentative agreement for workers in the history of the UPS, protecting and awarding more than 340,000 UPS Teamsters nationwide. The overwhelming lucrative contract raises wages for all workers, creates more full-time jobs, and includes dozens of workplace productions and improvements. The UPS Teamsters National Negotiating Committee unanimously agreed the 5-year tentative agreement. Rank-and-file UPS Teamsters sacrificed everything to get this country through a pandemic and enabled UPS to reap record-setting profits. Teamster labor moves America. The union went into this fight committing to winning for our members. We demanded the best contract in the history of the UPS, and we got it. UPS has put $30 billion in new money on the table as a direct result of these negotiations. We changed the game, battling out day and night to make sure our members want an agreement that pays strong wages, rewards their labor, and doesn't require a single concussion. This contract sets a new standard in the labor movement and raises the bar for all workers. UPS came dangerously close to cutting itself on strike, but we keep firm on our demands, said Teamsters General Secretary Treasurer Fred Zuckerman. In my more than 40 years of Louisville representing members at Worldport, the largest UPS hub in the country, I have never seen a national contract that levels the playing field for workers so dramatically as this one. The agreement puts more money in our members' pocket and establishes a full range of new protections for their team on the job. We stayed focused on our members and fought like hell to get everything that full-time and part-time Teamsters deserve, Zucker said. And we got a little article here. I'm trying to find where exactly Okay, here we go. Let's see. Historic wage increase. Existing full-time and part-time Teamsters will get 2.75 more per hour in 2023. Over the length of the contract, wages increase will total to 1.50 per hour. That's good. Existing part-timers will raise up to no less than 21 per hour immediately, and part-time seniority members earning more under a market rate adjustment would still receive all new general wages increases. General wage increases for part-time members will double the amount obtained in the previous UPS Teamsters contract, and existing part-time workers will receive a 28% average total wage increase over the next 5 years. Wage increases for full-timers will keep UPS Teamsters the highest-paid delivery drivers in the nation, improving their average top rate to $49 per hour. Current Teamsters working part-time will receive a longevity wage increase of up to $150 per hour on top of new hourly wages, compounding their earnings. New part-time hires would start at 21 and advance to 23 per hour. All Teamster drivers classified as 22.4s would be reclassified immediately as regular package car drivers and placed into seniority, ending the unfair two-tier wage system at the UPS. Safety and health protections, including vehicle air conditioning and cargo ventilation. UPS will equip in-cab AC in all large delivery vehicles, Sprinter vans, and package cars purchased after January 1st, 2024. All cars get 2 fans and air induction vents in the cargo compartments. And if you want to read the full article, here it is. It's at Teamster.com. We changed the game. stuff like that, I would go out of my way to read it. But we got other stuff to cover today, including, let's head over to YouTube. Okay, so for those of you who are unaware, music critic Fantano is going one-on-one with Activision after they used his infamous, well, not infamous, his famous, is that pizza save me a slice? God damn it, I went back. You know that, like, I think it's like, that's a hot pie, save me a slice, that kind of audio.
Save me a slice. That's good. Okay, that's good. Yeah, that's... Alright, that's good. Okay. Alright, okay, alright. Okay, that's good. That's good. It's enough slices!
Right now,
Activision ended up... It's a whole thing with Activision. We'll get into it. Charlie's gonna cover it.
Right now, there's an extremely interesting lawsuit going on between Activision and Anthony Fantano of The Needle Drop, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's a real eyebrow raiser, I'll tell you what. For starters, most of these publications refer to Fantano as a TikTok music critic. That's the most disrespectful shit ever. That's like cheerleaders laughing at you right to your
I'm pretty
face,
sure a lot
pulling
of
your
his,
pants down like that.
all along. Like, he has a TikTok, but, like, I'm pretty sure most of his stuff is on YouTube, isn't it? I don't watch his stuff, but, like, I'm very aware of him. And, like, I know he was a music critic. And then a lot of stuff would be on here. Yeah, here's Pantano. Yeah, a lot of his stuff is on here. You know, he uploads regularly. It's not like he only does TikTok. Like, he does a lot on here. So it's just weird to, like, put him in this kind of, like, he's just a TikToker. No, most of his stuff is on YouTube.
That's so embarrassing to get labeled that. They're spitting on him.
It
Fantano's
would be like if you called Ryan Reynolds a TikToker.
been on the internet long before TikTok ever even existed as an idea, so I'd have to give those headlines a light too. But anyway, when reading those headlines, what I expected in this story was Activision being 100% in the wrong and bullying a creator, because they are a company known for shady, awful, garbage, horrible, horrible things, as well as being unbelievably greedy. So I thought this would be a case of that, them strong-arming a creator and wiping their ass with their face. But after reading through the actual lawsuit and going over the case, it's super weird because Activision is still a supervillain, greedy, evil corporation, but the argument they're making in this lawsuit is actually one that helps normal TikTok users. I want to make it clear right away, I am not a fan of Activision. You certainly won't find me pumping my fist for that company. I am no Activision enthusiast. I am, however, an Anthony Fantano fan. So this was a really weird case because I don't see how Anthony Fantano could possibly argue his side. Melon Magic can only go so far.
I feel like he has to be, like, Planet Us, right?
I don't think it'll be far enough. And if Anthony Fantano did somehow win, it could open the door to large-scale exploitation of a system a lot of normal TikTok users rely on. And I'll explain what I mean in a moment. And I want to be clear right now.
Oh, he's talking about... Okay. I mean, that's a weird way of looking at it. What I think he's talking about is that, like, if Fantano... So, like, what happened is that they used his sound to advertise it, and they're not, like, paying him for it. Because, like, they're gonna use, like, it's fair use, stuff like that. And, it's a whole thing. And it is shitty that they are, like, manipulate. First of all, Activision should not have done what they did to begin with. But, like, I think what Charlie's gonna make the argument of is that if Fantano goes through this, then it's going to hurt a lot of TikTokers, because if you kind of copyright the sound, a lot of TikToks are based on people using other people's sounds. So it's going to complicate things and allow people to get manipulated by this. And, a lot of people to take advantage of the system. I don't know. I feel like... Here's the problem. I don't really think that's the problem, though. I think the problem is mostly them using his content as a promotional aspect. Like, that's the problem. Like, I feel like it's going to be more centered around that than just copywriting a sound to begin with. Like, it's just like, like, people can openly use the sound, but it just can't be used for marketing purposes. I feel like it should be the case.
Oh, Anthony Fantano has not spoke his piece on the subject yet, probably because it's a very touchy legal matter, so it'd be very difficult to speak on it. So I can only really give you the perspective of what's been laid out so far, and maybe that'll be subject to change as it continues. But basically, right now, Anthony Fantano had a very popular meme of him go viral called Enough Slices. It's a meme that's been used endlessly on TikTok. It's become a very popular meme. And Activision recently used it in an advertisement they made for Crash Bandicoot on TikTok. And Anthony Fantano allegedly cease and desisted them, to which they complied and took down the video. But then, according to Activision, Anthony Fantano reached back out and said that they're going to be required to pay a substantial amount of money in damages for using his intellectual property, basically, that meme.
So if it was just over it, I could still get wanting to sue it because, like, you're using it to advertise something. But yeah, going with a lawsuit for that would probably hurt you. Like, it is going to make things a lot more complicated. But that I'm not in support of. Because that will just make it a lot more complicated for people who, you know, are just innocently using sounds and now have their monetization taken away because they are, you know, using someone else's. But in my opinion, it's still a great example of how these companies will kind of manipulate. And we're seeing it now with, like, the AI and stuff, where, like, they'll take other people's work and they'll emulate it and they'll use it to promote their products as a way of not paying other people to come out with promotional products. Okay, the Fantano one wasn't a great example like I was hoping it was, but in my opinion, it still is a way, like, they shouldn't have done that to begin with. Like, that's still a messed up thing to do, to use someone else's, like, audio in a way to kind of market your product instead of coming up with someone with as your own. Alright, so something that I also want to add to this is that apparently Jim Cramer, who is, like, a big guy and a big name in terms of, like, the stock market, shit like that, apparently he sounds scared. He's scared of the unions, man. He's scared of the scary unions. He says that the Teamsters maybe got the best of UPS. He worries that the United Auto Workers and their president, Sean Feen, are more like 1930s UAW, which we don't want. Sure.
Being exaggeration. How about the way that UPS stock initially went up on that deal?
Yes.
And then people see that maybe the Teamsters got the best of it.
Although it's a good thing for the U.S. economy that there is not going to be a UPS strike.
You know, I'm so glad you mentioned that because that was very important for the U.S. I do want to know whether Ford is going to talk about whether there's more of an issue with the UAW. Then Carol Tomei talked about being an issue with the Teamsters. Very important to watch that because when you look at the way GM traded, it started going down when Mary Barra, the CEO, glossed over the union issue. That's a big mistake. Sean Fate reminds me of the 1930s UAW, which we don't want. Dave, we also didn't mention being as that.
Yes, I'm, you know, some very angry things from Jim Cramer. So you were going. John Oliver, comedian and host of Last Week's Night, said in April that Kramer is the only person who could look you in the eye and say you're going to die tomorrow and give you an immediate sense of calm knowing that you're going to live for another 50 years. Basically, you know, I'm not surprised that this kind of guy is going to be anti-union. It's just not, but it's very gross.